Now, what about my proposal? Are you in or are you out?
It's you who's out, Gobby. Out of your mind.
Hold on to the wings on eagles. Watch as they all fly away.
Welcome back to the Real Screen Team. I'm Andrew Thomas. I'm here with my fellow Spider-Man, Christopher Johnson.
Hello, everyone.
And we're continuing into the Year of the Spider with the very first Spider-Man live-action movie.
Yes, Spider-Man 2002. Spider-Man is a 2002 superhero film based on the Marvel Comics character of the same name. The film was directed by Sam Raimi from a screenplay written by David Coep. It is the first installment of the Spider-Man trilogy. The film stars Tobey Maguire as the title character, alongside Willem Dafoe, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, Cliff Robertson, and Rosemary Harris.
Want to get into the plot?
Sure, the synopsis.
Yeah.
Outcast teen genius Peter Parker, who develops spider-like superhuman abilities after being bitten by a genetically altered spider, and decides to use his newfound powers to fight crime as Spider-Man. While coming to understand the words of his beloved Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility.
So I really liked the movie. Still,
Yes.
rewatching it.
Yes, looking back at this after, well, God, soon it's going to be 20 years.
Yep.
The film still holds up fantastically well. I guess maybe I kind of had some preconceived notions or other things about it, just based off of the fact that so many people have talked about this film so many times. But looking back at it and how things played out, how the characters acted, I was actually a bit surprised. But we'll get into that. First off, the story itself was really good.
Yeah.
As far as
origin story.
Yeah, it really did the origin story justice.
Yeah.
Though I do find it interesting that how some things play out around the climax. Maybe a bit out of order as far as how we know the story of Spider-Man. But overall, I think it was done very well.
Yeah.
I guess we should definitely go into the cast.
Yep.
Starting with the man himself, Tobey Maguire, as Spider-Man.
And the best Peter Parker.
Yes. Hands down, Tobey Maguire, when it comes to playing the character of Peter Parker, all the chef kisses. All the chef kisses. He really got the idea of what Peter is supposed to be during his time in high school. And I think in some aspects of Peter once he starts his young adult life. Now, when coming up with the whole preconceived notions when it comes to him as Spider-Man, he hits it, but also there are some things that are a bit missing.
Yeah.
I mean, initially I thought, before we watched these films again, that he wasn't as quippy or as jokey as Spider-Man usually tends to be when he's doing, his whole, stopping crime, fighting villains. But I was actually surprised that he actually does it a little bit more than I thought he would. I don't know, maybe it's just...
I still don't think he doesn't do that many quips until like Spider-Man 3, really.
True. I mean, he did have his moments
Yeah.
in this, but, you know, it would have been nice if it happened a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think it was just because of the fact, first film,
Yeah.
you know, he's still trying to find himself as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he gets in a high school field trip full of
yeah.
with a teacher about their same age as him.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure that one out.
I know
How-
I know you keep making excuses for it, but I still think you couldn't tell him apart from the rest of the cast. There, you could just
Well, can you blame everyone? Everyone was in their 20s
Yeah.
playing high school kids.
that's one of the only gripes I have about it is that first scene. You can't really tell them
True.
apart on that one. Yeah, he's a teacher. What? He doesn't. He looks about the same age. So I don't really.
And dear God, is he, you know, kind of menacing or a bit aggressive with, you know, you better not be talking. Or I'm going to drop you down one letter grade.
Yeah, but it was cool. Although he's so far the only Spider-Man who has the web slinging.
Yeah.
I'll be the Sam Raimi.
Yeah. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is a bit unique compared to all the other Spider-Man because usually Spider-Man makes, you know, web shooters, actual mechanical web shooters. For Tobey Maguire, he has organic web shooters. He has the webs coming out of his wrists. So when he does this, it just comes out of his wrist. I always found that a bit weird, personally, because I always knew that, yeah, Spider-Man has web shooters, and sometimes it'd be, you know, the gravity of the situation would become much more intense when, oh no, he's out of web cartridges. But no, for Peter, I've got more where that comes from.
He only loses if he's not concentrated right. Pretty much.
Or going through some sort of existential crisis.
Which we'll get to in the next review.
Yes. But overall, I think Tobey Maguire did a fantastic job.
Yep.
You definitely got to see his range, you know.
And the character's progression on there from being the shy, nerdy kid who was nervous to talk to his crush Mary Jane to being more confident and finally getting a chance with Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And being a responsible hero.
And truly growing as a man.
Yeah.
You know, we see the boy grow into the Spider-Man.
Now, let's talk about the other cast members.
Okay. Well, go into the main villain himself, the big bad.
For No Way Home.
True.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Yes. Willem Dafoe as Norman Osborn, a.k.a. the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
My God, is Willem Dafoe fantastic.
Yeah. And you can...
He is the MVP of this film.
Yep. He's much more creepier without the mask.
True, very
when he
true.
talks to himself.
And it's hilarious but also weird
Yeah.
of him having an argument with his own freaking mask. Or him looking at his reflection in the mirror.
Of course, like in the later comic series, Norman sees Peter as a sort of the son he never had out of Harry, pretty much.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the unique things that I really enjoy about the film, where there's kind of a kinship between Peter and Norman, either as themselves or as Spider-Man and the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Where Norman's a genius And he sees that in Peter, and he wants to kind of help nurture that. Because he sees Peter as an exceptional individual, while he doesn't necessarily see that in Harry.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to their alter egos, I guess Norman, in his own weird way, he feels as though that no matter what good Spider-Man does, at some point the city's going to hate him. Yeah. The city's going to turn on him. So he feels as though, forget the responsibility of helping others. Join me, and we can just use this power to bring whatever we want into fruition.
Which he may or may not have done in No Way Home.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, of course their only good team up was when they were asking Harry about meeting their date, and Peter knows who Harry's dating at this point. The only true team up between Peter and the Spider-Man and Green Goblin was on that one scene. What? He hasn't told you yet? Looking at him.
And definitely, you really feel bad for Norman when you really think about it.
Yeah, with all the company problems and all that.
Yeah, and the fact that he has to use himself as the human test for this experimental kind of steroid-like drug. It's kind of like the super soldier serum, but different.
Yeah.
And, of course, because when they went and did some animal testing, it proved that, well, some tended to go insane, and unfortunately for Norman...
He went insane?
Yeah. And therefore, developing this other... He pretty much develops a split personality. Mm-hmm. There's him, and then there's the goblin within him.
Yeah. We all know how that turns out at the end.
Yeah. Really feel bad for him.
Yeah.
But also, in a weird way, I think having the goblin within him also made him a bit less tactful when it came to how he talked to people.
Yeah.
Definitely when it came to talking to Harry about Mary Jane.
Yeah.
Because I think that was definitely some feelings Norman himself had.
Yeah.
With, the fact of his divorce.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I forgot how much layers Green Goblin had as a character.
Yeah.
And of course, him in the suit.
Yeah.
Just fantastic.
Yeah, the suit looked awesome.
Despite the fact he's kind of restricted because of a helmet.
Yeah.
You have such a great, expressive actor in Willem Dafoe, and you have him wearing a helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you do that? Why?
Just to look comic book accurate.
I mean, I do know that they were looking into making a movable type of mask for him, but I guess it proved to be a bit too difficult, so that's why they went with the helmet.
Yep. And now, let's get to the love interest.
Ah, yes. Kirsten Dunst as Mary Jane Watson.
She's best known in this movie as mainly the Dream Girl.
Yeah,
in this movie.
the girl next door who may have a couple skeletons in her closet.
Mainly abusive father.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the main thing, and going to boyfriend.
Oh God, yeah. Oof.
Especially in later movies. Yep.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that. I mean, as far as this film, I actually like Mary Jane.
Yep.
Despite the fact that as a very knowledgeable comic book fan, I know Peter didn't grow up with Mary Jane in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
he met Mary Jane once he was in college.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, he was also trying to get introduced to him by her, I think her aunt.
yeah,
And he kept trying to ignore it until she finally walked in.
yeah, and she decided to do it herself.
Yeah.
But, I mean, as far as them trying to establish Mary Jane, I thought it was, I give it a pass as far as her and Peter growing up, knowing each other.
Even though he was too shy to talk to her.
Despite the fact they live freaking next door to each other.
Yeah. But he did
I get it, Peter. You're a nerd. You're not sure of yourself. But come on, man. She lives next door to you.
finally gets a chance to talk to her finally, mainly after the...
After graduation,
Yeah.
and once he gets Spider-Man abilities.
Yeah. Yeah, and he does get kissed by her twice. Once as Spider-Man, when she was still seeing Harry at the time.
Okay, maybe we need to go into that. What the heck, MJ? Huh? Do you have any sense of loyalty when it comes to being with someone? Because you were with Harry when you kissed Spider-Man. You knew what you were doing.
Mm-hmm.
You knew. And this isn't even the only instance in you doing this.
Of course, she also kisses Peter around Harry's father's funeral.
Well, by that time, I think her and Harry had broken up. So that one, okay.
But I thought Kirsten Dunst was good. She was also really hot in this. With the red wig she was wearing. In there.
I did not realize that was a wig until you told me.
And this is where her and Toby started a short-lived romance in real life.
Yeah, which shows the chemistry.
Yep. But, well, let's get into the rest of the cast now.
Okay. Well, we're talking about the love interest. Why don't we go into Peter's best friend, Harry Osborn, played by James Franco.
Yep. And this he's much more likable compared to what he is in the original comics.
Yeah. Harry's much more chill.
Yeah.
And I also feel bad for him because, all he wants is his dad's love and approval. And his dad is like, no, you're kind of a screw-up.
Yeah. Always picking Peter over him for the most part.
Well, yeah, because real recognizes real, genius recognizes genius, exceptional recognizes exceptional.
That he grows resentful of Peter.
Yeah.
Even though he did take Peter that he had a crush on. That Peter had a crush on.
And he knew.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck, Harry? You were pushing him to go ahead and do the thing, but then you decide to go and actually hook up with Mary Jane.
Yeah.
So much for guy code, so much for the bro code. What the heck, man?
That both Peter and Norman get on him before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think James Franco did a good job.
Yeah. He was Lex Luthor-esque in this, pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, he's trying to be, the nice kid.
Yeah.
Despite the fact he's extravagantly rich and his dad is the Green Goblin.
Yeah.
But why don't we go into the people that helped raise Peter?
Mm-hmm.
Cliff Robertson as Ben Parker and Rosemary Harris as May Parker.
Yep. The oldest versions of...
Yeah. Which I still find it weird.
They look more like his grandparents than his aunt and uncle.
Yeah, they're in their 60s.
Yeah.
Which makes me wonder, how old were Peter's parents when they had Peter?
Yeah.
old were Ben and May when Richard and Mary were born?
Yeah.
These are questions that need to be answered because how?
Yep.
But Cliff Robertson and Rosemary Harris were great.
Yep.
Um,
And of course, Uncle Ben dies.
yeah.
Like comic book mythos, at least they got that part right.
Yeah, and at least we don't have to go through actually seeing him get shot.
Yeah.
Or graphically shot.
Yeah.
But, dear God, his death scene was truly heartbreaking.
Yeah. Made Tobey Maguire's Peter cry.
Ugly cried. It wasn't a sexy cry, it was an ugly cry. He was crying.
Then Aunt May, she had some good lines and stuff after Uncle Ben died, like Norman and stuff.
And she's definitely good when it comes to helping Peter find guidance.
Yeah, and his love advice too.
Yeah. I really like Rosemary Harris's Aunt May.
Yeah.
You know, you really see how much both May and Ben truly care about Peter, and despite the fact their aunt and uncle, they really want to be the parents that Peter never really got to have.
Or grandparents.
True.
Yeah.
But then again, we have a 25-year-old playing an 18-year-old.
True.
So.
But let's get to some of the human antagonists of Spider-Man.
Ah, yes. Everyone's favorite editor of the Daily Bugle. J. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons.
Yep.
The other individual that deserves all the chef kisses, because my God, is J.K. Simmons fantastic as J. Jonah Jameson.
He does a good Ed Asner impression from the animated series.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you definitely feel the whole, I need pictures of Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man's a menace.
He's a menace. Why is he wearing that mask?
Yep.
Which I actually find interesting that they didn't go into the whole reason why.
Well,
why?
because his wife is still alive
Yeah.
in this universe. So.
I mean, it was kind of explained within the comics and the animated series that Jameson has issues with people wearing masks because back when he was a reporter, he had some hits. He had some hits out for his life, and one got close to getting to him, but they ended up shooting and killing his wife, and the dude was wearing a mask.
And this one, it's just because he hates vigilantes.
Yeah. It's just he doesn't trust vigilantes that wear masks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
And he has a good rapport with Betty Brant, played by Elizabeth Banks.
yes, which I definitely like her as Betty.
Yep. Yep. We also hint of her having probably a crush on Peter.
Yeah, which was a thing in the comics.
Yeah.
They were never really like that serious, but there was definitely like
Yeah.
there was a thing there between them.
Yep. But she was mainly the secretary to remind J. Jonah Jameson on everything, which we get to more.
Yeah.
in the next two movies.
Yeah. I mean, if he didn't have Betty and, a couple other people, how in the world would he get these stories out on a daily to weekly basis?
Mm-hmm. Now, our last two supporting cast members. Oh, yeah, we have the cameo of Randy Savage and Bruce Campbell.
Well,
Yeah.
let's take our time with that.
Okay, all right.
But we talked about Well, let's
The
go
cast.
more into some of the good.
Yeah, like we said, the key since I opened.
I mean, the cast was fantastic.
Yeah.
The story was very good, straightforward. The action scenes,
Yeah, we're awesome.
yes. Even though the CGI wasn't necessarily the best when it came to certain scenes.
Yeah,
I mean, it was 2002, so
yeah,
CGI hadn't gotten there yet. But the scenes were good. I actually forgot how intense the fights between Spider-Man and Goblin got.
yeah,
You know, during the 3 times they fought
yeah.
in the film. I forgot. And of course, you can't forget one very important thing when it comes with a film: the music.
Yeah.
All the scores done by Danny Elfman.
It won't be the last that we hear from him in this year.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
But I mean, from Peter's main theme, the main theme of essentially his whole trilogy,
Yeah.
just fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. This is definitely some of Danny Elfman's best work.
Next to the Batman.
Yes, next to the Tim Burton Batman movies.
Yeah. Foreshadowing.
And dear God, is this film so quotable?
Yeah.
I mean, just based off of our cold open, there are so many great quotes in this film.
Yeah.
I mean, the itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Down came the goblin and flushed the spider out. I mean, it's just so fantastic. Really, really good. What are some of your favorite quotes?
That's a hard one. You pretty much said most of them.
True. Just
Yeah.
based off of talking about J. Jonah Jameson, because dear God, does he have so many.
Yeah.
Well, I trust my barber. And now, the cameos. Which, dear God, there's quite a lot of cameos and really good ones.
Yeah.
Of course, we got to talk about the man himself. Ooh, yeah, Macho Man Randy Savage playing Bonesaw McGraw.
The one who gets beat by Peter Parker.
Yeah.
And then we also have Octavia Spencer also working there.
Yeah, she's, I guess, she's the one signing up wrestlers.
Yeah.
Which, okay, as a wrestling fan who knows the business, this is not how professional wrestling is run. This is not how it works. You do not have a whole line of people signing up to try to wrestle the champion. No, that's not how it works.
Then we have Bruce Campbell also in there.
Yeah, he's actually the announcer that gives Peter his name. Which I think is...
Yeah.
I think it's awesome and very interesting.
Then we also have Lucy Lawless.
Yeah, as Spider-Man is starting to gain
The
fame.
montage.
Yeah, the montage where we see him doing his acts of heroism. A lot of people throughout New York City are being interviewed, giving their opinions, and we see Lucy Lawless. She's this goth chick that...
Yeah, you wouldn't even know it was her until you see the credits.
Yeah. And apparently she has a thing for Spider-Man. She thinks his whole thing is kind of hot. And then you have someone like comedian Jim Norton who doesn't like Spider-Man at all. He pretty much has the same mindset as J. Jonah Jameson.
Should we talk about the bad?
Well, There's also
Oh,
one
yeah.
other
All right.
cameo we
Oh, yeah.
forgot.
What?
Well, during the World Festival, we actually got to hear the
Saying, like-
musical stylings of Macy Gray.
Yeah. And we also get the Stanley cameo,
Yeah. Stan Lee cameo.
which is in most of the Spider-Man movies until later on.
Yeah. Though his cameo is a lot more reserved. He's just one of the various people at the World Festival running away.
Yep.
And now getting into the bad. Well, I already said that, you know, the CGI for the film hasn't necessarily aged well.
Yeah.
Well, heck, even back in the day, I thought it was kind of... I don't believe this is actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that they're actively jumping on those giant balloons.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we also talked about the big thing, the Goblin's helmet.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you put a helmet on one of the most expressive actors ever?
Mm-hmm.
I will never understand. And, of course, I explained the inaccuracies of professional wrestling, in which, no, you don't do things like that. You don't do things like that. And also, you don't have amateur wrestlers. You have to have professionals that actually know what they're doing.
I think that's about it. Or,
Yeah.
So, want to tell about our score?
Why don't you go first?
I give this an 8 out of 10.
Huh.
Yep, I still really like the movie, the plot. It's a good origin story. Pretty much, even you get to feel the late 90s and early 2000s feel from it still, of how cheesy it is.
Yeah, but I think the camp is actually very endearing. I actually think Sam Raimi did a good job in, you know, actually allowing it to be a bit melodramatic and a bit campy.
Yep. And you?
I agree with you. I give it an 8 out of 10 as well. This film is still charming after 20 years. You know, despite some things not aging well as far as the technology, or if some things aren't necessarily as accurate as the comics are, it's still a fantastic film, fantastic story. The whole cast did fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Still enjoyed after all these years.
If you don't like our opinion, go find us on Facebook, The Real Screen Team. Find us on YouTube, The Real Screen Team. Like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Here, give us some pointers on what other movies you want us to review, maybe next year.
Yeah, we're on the road to 1,000. And we definitely want to, you know, grow our viewership. Once we get to 1,000, we're going to go ahead and make a Patreon. And then we'll start, you know, allowing some viewer suggestions. And who knows, maybe we'll do a few special videos or reviews specifically for Patreon, or maybe make a few videos available early for Patreon.
But you want to roll us out? No, wait, before we do that, we're going to be reviewing the next Tobey Maguire film, Spider-Man 2.
Yes, which
This is,
can't wait.
yeah, the supposed best one of the bunch.
Yes.
But now you can roll us out.
Okay, thank you.
Here.
Well, thank you all for coming. Definitely come back and watch us again. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share. It definitely helps. Thank you all. Let's fade to black.
Hold